I was so worried about being your co-host. I've been pleasantly surprised by how relaxed you have been this past year. How is it you give me so much freedom as your co-host?
Are you talking about the research done by Moyman, Dykes, and Elmers? Leader power, power stability, and interpersonal trust?
Yes, I am. That's the one. Using scientific research
And our own personal stories.
we are going to form
A dating hypothesis.
In conclusion,
It's biology.
it's presumptive.
It's hypothetical.
It's interpretive.
Hey everyone, my name is Rachel.
And this is Kayla with Dating Hypothesis. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are incredibly controlling and anal about the script, recordings, and editing. In the last year, you gave 0 fucks about social media, commercial settings, and if we go months without releasing an episode. These two behaviors are so extreme. Please explain this to me.
I need a co-host. This show is my baby, but it could never exist without you. There are things I need to be exact and hyper-specific in order to be happy with the show. Those things would be the script, recording, and editing. I told myself to let the rest go once I found a co-host. I would give my co-host 1 year to do or not do whatever the fuck they were gonna do, and I would barely interject or complain. After a year, we could regroup to see what works, what doesn't work.
I'm grateful. I actually feel like this is my show as well, despite not having control over content. I think we are a good fit.
We both agree I'm controlling and anal, so I have to ask you, do I power trip on you?
Well, I know for sure you guilt trip me.
Mm-hmm.
And you get angry with me every week.
Yeah.
So we argue about things like how many commercials we should have, if I wrote in the script yet, and if I sound like a zombie during recording.
Yeah.
But those things are not power tripping. What about you, Rachel? Do I power trip on you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you feel in control enough to power trip on me, but I agree that we are a good fit because you're strong enough to demand that I step up when I'm falling behind.
So having power and being strong are not precursors to power tripping?
No, it would seem it's not, but I will tell you who likes to power trip on me. My boyfriend!
What's your boyfriend doing now?
He had the balls to try to punish me. Like I'm a full-grown adult. Nobody can punish me. I'm not a child. I don't even think punishment works on children. You're supposed to guide them.
How do you know if you're power tripping on someone or not? How do you know if someone is power tripping on you?
We don't need scientific proof to know if someone is a power tripper. We just feel that shit.
This is a science-based podcast, so let's pull out the research.
Punishment.
Is it okay for your husband to punish you? If you are rude or do something wrong, like spend money he doesn't want you to, should he have the right to backhand you? In the Middle Ages, there was a cartoon depicting a husband chasing his wife with a stick, and the caption said, "Rule of thumb," as in, you could beat your wife as long as the switch was no thicker than your thumb. When punishment is the goal, the person in power is either just trying to get your attention or purposely inducing fear and anxiety in you. What they don't realize is aggression is a natural side effect of being punished. If a person getting punished pushes back, the punisher has to double down their efforts to get you to listen, or they will berate you until you shut down emotionally. Have you experienced this yourself, Rachel?
Our mom would line us up before a beating and make her way down the line. So we watched each other get beat. Our mom used the wire end of a fly swatter to beat our butts, thighs, lower backs. She was also a wooden spoon mom. There reached a point where we were as tall or taller than her, and we realized she wasn't so scary. She couldn't really hit that hard. This is when she started throwing us into the wall or kicking us. But this last bit was usually done in another room with the door closed. She started separating us and beating the living daylights out of us. People who trip out on power love it when targets shut down emotionally because they're easier to control. If you are a parent and you currently punish your kids, think about whether you are okay with them shutting down emotionally. Sure, it makes it easier for you, But what does that do to them in the long run? And what does their future look like with romantic partners?
In addition to punishing, power comes from controlling critical resources. So parents, teachers, bosses, governments, and the other usual suspects are all guilty of power tripping. Yet, not everyone in power uses it to withhold resources or micromanage their underlings.
Researchers gathered data on people who gain power and use punishment. They found the combination of power and punishment gave the people in power trust issues. It's like a vicious cycle that feeds itself. A simple way to avoid this is to guide your underlings instead of punishing them.
Punishing is fast and easy. It can get immediate results, and you don't have to put much thought or effort into it.
Is that kind of like saying people who rely on punishment as a form of correction are stupid?
That's not what I'm saying, although maybe it is what I'm saying. I mean, think about it. Correction brought about using punishment is built on a teetering, unstable foundation.
Because of the aggression building in the transgressor.
Yeah, the transgressor is still not getting their needs met, so they will transgress again. Also, punishments tend not to fit the crime because the punisher is doling out a swift and immediate reaction to the action, usually without thinking it through or figuring out what is wrong in the first place to cause this action or behavior. Habitual punishers follow a fork in the road, leading them down a spiraling trend of swifter and more irrational punishments.
So you're saying a manager that uses public embarrassment to punish an employer will steadily become more toxic, or a parent that uses hitting as punishment will steadily grow more abusive?
Yes, and I wonder why anyone bothers with punishments. Why can't we all take the high road full of patience, guidance, and understanding to fix problems?
It's more effective to find the root of the problem and guide things to a solution using conversations, brainstorming, and modeling. Sure, it takes 10 times as long to fix the problem, but you are making sure the next guided correction is going to be easier, faster, and more community-based.
If you want help switching from a punishment-based position to a guidance-based position, simply decide to fit punishments to crimes. What was the crime? What needs to be installed so there is no reason to commit the crime in the first place? It's not always going to be a punishment. In fact, the better you become at guiding people, the less useful you'll find punishment. And the more you will realize the system you had in place is not functioning properly for all members involved, and changes need to take place on both ends to find a solution.
So if I commit a crime, it's because someone else is doing something wrong.
Yeah, kind of.
When an offense has been committed, think to yourself, what is the desired outcome here? My son got a C on a test in middle school. I could have grounded him, beaten him, took away his technology, but I never punished that way. His social life was imperative to me. It was essential that he had a solid friend group and knew how to interact with his peers. So grounding was never an option. I'm not fond of hitting, so that was rarely an option. I loved that he was skillful with his technology, so I wasn't about to take those away from him. The crime was a C on his test. The goal was for him to get A's on all future tests. The kid just needed structured study time that didn't interfere with his social life. There was no crime to punish. We just needed to set up time for him to study and do his homework properly. Boom, done, problem solved. No punishment, no crime, just a poor system in place lacking what he needed to be successful.
Yes, but you were a stay-at-home mom. You could implement that and be a guiding force in his life, helping him with his homework. Not everyone has that luxury.
Everyone has that luxury. I chose to forgo a new car, new clothes, vacations, a newer modeled home, savings, retirement, and keeping up with the Joneses to sit at home and structure our life in a way my son knew he was loved, understood, and trusted. He knew I believed in him. I was able to be present to guide his growth and development because I gave up having a dual income home. I had a list of traits I wanted him to possess. and I enrolled him in every after-school activity that instilled those traits. Not everyone has that luxury because they prioritize other life factors like money.
I decided to break the cycle of punishment in my family. I come from a long line of alcoholics who used harsh punishment tactics when I was growing up. I prefer to use gentle parenting. I like to redirect. Talk to them about their actions, like falling and getting hurt when they climb a dangerous structure. In the past, I've had to guide and be in power in a way that people may not even see as that. I've had to lead people to conclusions to understand. For instance, my son's autism. It's tough to deal with and understand. Sometimes people see it as if I'm just dramatic. So, to get people to know why I insist on the level of control, I have to tell them the horror stories. Whether it's the literal shit paintings on his walls, the difficulty of affording the 5 foods that he will eat, all of which are expensive, yay, the fact that he absolutely has and will run with abandonment. No idea that a car could run him over, even at 5 years old. His concept of safety and self-care do not exist. Therefore, my control, my need to know where he is at all times, and my refusal to let anyone else care for him had a reason. And the only way to help others understand seems to be telling the difficult, dramatic stories.
In episode 19, you mentioned the men in your life understand not to mess with you. I forget how you put it, but essentially, they would never cheat on you or treat you with disrespect. You are in a successful marriage. Do you power trip on your men? How do you share responsibilities without micromanaging him or your kids?
I have you fooled then. I am the power trip. My dad tried to teach us not to power trip out on people and tried to teach us to never let anyone else have power over us. But in our family, he had all the power. He had the money. He could buy what he wanted and needed, and that caused resentment. Their marriage today still has an imbalance of power. I was influenced by that, and I know it's wrong to hold power in a relationship. But I do micromanage my husband. I think it's healthy in a relationship if one person is more laid back than the other. One partner is going to have to step up. My family is important to me, and I run a tight ship. That being said, we have a neurodivergent household, and it works best when things are structured and planned out.
The power balance in relationships is delicate if either side is not aware of their own behaviors. It takes willingness to listen to criticism, knowing your own weaknesses and strengths, and respecting boundaries. And if you believe you're above those things, but your partner isn't, there is already a power imbalance.
There are words that promote balanced relationships.
And words that describe the infliction of power in relationships.
Balanced relationships require both sides to give and receive attention. Both sides must be willing to make accommodations for each other in times of need. Mistakes are normal, and if we can't make mistakes with the people we love, the world is a sad, lonely place indeed. Partners in balanced relationships protect each other, forming an oasis from the world that can be cruel. This includes apologizing with efforts not to make the same mistakes repeatedly, and there is an emphasis in fairness, making sure both partners are getting their needs met. For my husband and I, there is a balance of understanding in social situations. I know he hates loud and busy situations. It is overwhelming. That means the social butterfly in me doesn't plan many dates at busy, loud places. And at family gatherings, I make sure he has a calm and quiet space. He knows that sometimes I need to have time to disassociate and unmask, which often is me scrolling mindlessly on my phone, something he finds annoying and ridiculous. But he tolerates it so I can feel in control of my mental health.
Power-riddled relationships are a different beast altogether. One person is happy while the other person is struggling to make them happy. Instead of a continuous cycle of feeding each other and lifting each other up, there is a systematic deliverance of lies, fear, rejection, shame, aggression, unreasonable expectations, name-calling, maybe even neglect. If this is done in the guise of a joke, if they are always kidding. It can be especially traumatic since you don't know what is real and what you might be exaggerating.
What is an example of you providing a balanced relationship, Rachel?
When my son went to his father's every summer, holidays, and long weekends, I never called him. I never canceled or switched his father's time. When my son was in high school, his robotics team made nationals, and the tournament was during his father's time. He begged me to cancel the flight and let him go with his team. There was no way. His dad barely got any time with him compared to how much time I got with him. I made it clear the activities he was enrolled in were just that, activities to be enrolled in. They were not entities that took away parental rights or interfered with parent relationships. Activities were supposed to enhance a family, not tear it apart.
Sure. You make it sound easy, but not everyone was lucky like you, landing the perfect father figure for your son. Some people have to deal with crazy, drunken, or whoring men as role models for their children and have to protect them from those bad influences.
Haha, wrong. Every father has a right to raise their children as they see fit. If the two of you can't do that together, then you will do it apart. And every woman out there denying a father his rights to influence the child as they see fit is power tripping to the max. Children have a right to know their parents. Your butthurt feelings never come before a man's right to his child. My son knew both of his parents equally. I never said a single bad word to my son about his dad until my son was 23 years old. And the very first time I said something negative, the look in his eyes was shock. He knew I would defend his father no matter what. Except my son wasn't a child anymore. He was 23. At 23, it's okay to air your dirty laundry.
What could you say wrong about his perfect dad?
Do you want to know what his dad does for fun? He fills up trash bags with gasoline and throws the bag off a balcony into a bonfire. He rents yachts with the intent to sink it by trying to use the waves and the wind to tip it over. He puts mattresses in the middle of abandoned roads in Montana to drive at in order to flip the SUV. He's a chronic cheater, drinker, adrenaline junkie who likes to blow things up. My son came home after a 4-day weekend when he was 11 and proceeded to describe them placing propane tanks in the middle of bonfires to watch them explode.
That is so dangerous. So you put your son's life at risk every time you let him visit his father? That is so irresponsible.
The only thing I did that was irresponsible was to not wear a condom. Everything after that was me being responsible. This man had 4 other kids he had full access to. That side of his family is batshit crazy. If I didn't want my son influenced that way, I should have worn a condom. It is not my place to dictate a father get 0 access to his own bloodline. I had a right to fight for supervised visitation. That's everyone's right. If you feel the other parent is not fit to be alone with your child, you can fight for supervised visitation. Every woman out there right now denying a father visitation or equal custody is a psychotic bitch.
It is okay to protect your kids from dangerous people.
Yes, with supervised visitation, not by denying someone access to their own flesh and blood. No matter how dangerous a man is, he has a right to spend time with his kids. If you feel the need to fight for supervised visitation, then you have that right. Do it. Good for you. But if you interfere, hinder, or try to deny a father's time, then you are power tripping. And yes, that includes scheduling clubs, activities, practice, party invitations, classes, lessons, or any other bullshit excuse women like to bully onto a father's time with his kids. If he didn't sign the kid up for it, then it should never occur during his time with them. Either raise the kids together in agreement peacefully or keep your shit on your own time.
I disagree. I have seen circumstances in my own family that make me take the opposite stance. My sister has 2 kids with a guy who was dangerous, physically and emotionally abusive, to the degree he threatened to kill their child if she tried to leave. I don't think he should have had any visitation rights. Their second child was conceived because he literally trapped and raped her for days. I think moms have a right to prevent fathers like that from being involved.
We agree to disagree. She has resources available to help her out of that situation, and the courts can set up supervised visitation with actual police in the room to make sure all is well.
She did. The courts made mistakes. The piece of paper that says stay away per the judge's ruling didn't actually stop a grown man from coming through the door and beating a woman senseless to hospitalize her.
Which is why you should vet who you fuck and breed with before you willy-nilly get into a relationship with some loser. Date until you know what you're facing, people.
Jesus, what was your mother like?
My mother dodged every visitation. She had excuse after excuse. I never met my dad until I was 23.
He was a pedophile.
Supervised visitation. I never got it. I never knew my dad, and that was incredibly destructive to me growing up. He had rights. I had rights. My incubator denied him those rights, and that's evil. I had a right to know where I came from, who my dad was, what he was like, and what the other half of me was like. My mother sexually abused us. So my dad can't know or see me when he sexually abused my aunts, the babysitters. But my mom, who sexually abused me, gets to raise me? I have to spend every day with her? My mother is a liar, thief, whore, child abuser, pedophile, and recreates history so that she's the hero and the most awesome, funny savior on the planet.
Like, what does she say?
When I was 10, we were sitting at the breakfast table waiting for her to finish cooking. Mind you, the morning was going horrible because she never cooked or spent time with us unless she was abusing us. So her cooking breakfast at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning was unusual, and we were complaining about it. We wanted to go back to bed. We wanted to sleep. She got so pissed that we were not delighted to act like a perfect family at 7 a.m. with her that she spun around with the iron cast pan she was frying breakfast in and threw it like a frisbee at my brother's head. He had to duck in order to not get his skull crashed in. The pan was large enough to hold breakfast for 6 people. You want to know what she says when we bring that up? If I meant to hit you, I wouldn't have missed. She refused to pay for anything for us, so we all got jobs. You want to know what she did? She stole our babysitting money. This woman continues to sabotage our adult romantic relationships by trying to seduce our partners or our partner's family members. She fabricates stories about their pasts. She rips up passports so we can't be together. She has 5 kids. 3 of us won't talk to her. We hide our contact information so she can't email, text, or send postal mail to us. We block her on social media. We use lies with our mom as a safety mechanism. It is the only way to protect ourselves from her. And that translates into very negative adult habits that are difficult to break. In order to have power, you have to have someone to have power over. That is why my mother doesn't know where I live, what state I live in. She doesn't have my phone number. Do I wish I never knew her? No. That would have caused the same problem as not knowing my father. If you have a problem with a co-parent, then get supervised visitation. Don't pretend you have a God-given right to delete a child's right to know their parent. Kayla, what do you do that provides balance in your relationships?
You're making me realize I have a little problem needing to be in control. I do discuss a lot of decisions with my husband. I'm also the type who decides what kind of vehicle I'm going to buy because even though I asked his opinion, I didn't really care about his opinion. That being said, when it comes to our kids, there is always a balance. Changing our son's therapy, we both decide. Getting our kid evaluated for autism, yep, we're both involved. I discuss meals with him because I don't want him to feel like I only make food I like. But when I'm determined, I find a way to get my way.
Unfortunately, a power tripper's wet dream are underlings in a submissive role, like students, children, employees, weak people, givers, or survivors of abuse.
What about people that look like they are power tripping, but inside their own mind, that is not what's happening? Sometimes a person's behavior can be seen as power tripping when really it is a self-defense mechanism. If they had an abusive childhood, they will have barriers up that provide protection that can look like a power trip, when really they're just making sure they don't get taken advantage of. When real power trippers meet those people with boundaries, they cry foul. It can all be a convoluted mess trying to figure out who is controlling versus who is maintaining healthy boundaries.
Only you can know the dynamics of your childhood, parents, neighborhood, religion, and the society you grew up in. It's possible the most controlling, domineering person in your life may be protecting themselves.
For instance, my father grew up in a situation where his mother was very controlling and demanding, and his dad, who was a very gentle soul, let her win battles. Dad, growing up, saw this, so he, in turn, has always been very controlling. He raised all 3 of his daughters to be strong and capable, and to not let a man control us. So in some twisted way, he felt he was coping and protecting himself, but then taught us something contradictory to the behavior he exhibited.
If you understand fear, you can understand the reactions to fear. Being able to spot the difference between self-protection, healthy boundaries, and entitled encounters will help you navigate relationships better. It will help you give the appropriate response to any given situation.
Let's say you're a man and you're trying to get a woman from a dating app to go on a date with you, and she seems awfully controlling about the timing, location, or activity. She might just be orchestrating a safe date for herself, or she could be a control freak. If you are a control freak, then she is more likely to look like a control freak to you, when maybe she's just trying to keep herself safe. If you live your life pushing to get what you want, if you feel like everyone is in your way or a pain in the ass, there's a good chance that you are a control freak.
Let's look at some statistics for why some people get aggressive about protecting themselves. I took a poll on Reddit asking only men who had been molested as a child. 23% of males answering the poll had been molested. Google says 17% of males are molested as children. So there's a little disparity there. I'm not really sure why.
Data gathered on suicidal people shows 50% have been victims of rape or dating violence.
So we can cut suicide in half by being nice if everyone on the planet stopped being assholes?
Childhood abuse can lead to eating disorders, substance abuse, and more abuse later in life. The earlier someone is exposed to abuse, the more escalated types of abuse they tolerate as adults from their intimate partners. Approximately 20% of men and 13% of women cheat. The people being cheated on are devastated when they find out. All these people set intense boundaries when they start healing. And because of past experiences, their tolerance levels for abuse will be pretty low, even if your interaction with them was completely innocent.
But you said past abuse causes someone to be more tolerant and accepting of abuse.
Ah, yes. But note the difference. Unhealed people are still entrenched in habitual abusive relationships. People on a healing path have low tolerances for abusive behaviors and will nip that in the bud right quick when they see hints of it. Being ignorant of your own behavior and how it can be construed as abusive in any way, shape, or form is not an excuse to continue being shitty to people.
Research data gathering efforts have concluded community service and jail don't prevent crimes. There are people in our society that would prefer rehabilitation to prisons. And a look at recent headlines will show you the disparity between sentences given out to the variety of criminals in those headlines.
Any system, whether a home, job, government, or society, functions best when each member is engaged in solving problems that crop up. When an entity becomes too large, it is no longer effective for everyone to raise their voice to offer solutions, and the development of the little man becomes a problem in and of itself.
America tends to live separate from family instead of taking care of each other. We place value on living alone in big houses instead of creating a family home environment that integrates each generation's abilities. Grandparents are patient and bored. Toddlers need guidance and are entertaining, but we put grandpa in an old folks home we can't afford while dishing out another shit ton of cash for overcrowded childcare environments.
The Dalai Lama said, females have more sensitivity about others' well-being, but I see as many women power tripping in jobs, families, friends, schools, and relationships as men, which is exactly why we put dear old domineering grandma in a home and hire a sitter who will listen to what we say in regards to raising our children.
Yeah, I don't think power tripping is a male or female issue. I think it's a power issue.
We struggle with power issues when it comes to family members controlling us and our decisions. But I'm not sure hiding the elderly away in elder care facilities to rot is a healthy solution. There are more loving ways to get rid of controlling elders. In Japan, UK, Australia, Spain, Singapore, Canada, and the US, there are multi-generational facilities that pair preschoolers with nursing homes. The kids and elders do art together. The elders volunteer to hold and feed babies from the infant room, and they teach the preschoolers Mandarin or Spanish. A Harris poll commissioned by Generations United and the Eisner Foundation found that nearly all Americans believe older adults and children have skills and talents to help one another. And 85% would prefer a shared site that fosters intergenerational connection over an age-segregated facility. Dutch countries create affordable housing for seniors and young mothers to live together, offering social support, guidance, and connection.
If you are an employee who hates your job, you are more likely to not care. By not caring, you will cause problems. This can be a form of power tripping. If you are so belligerent and arrogant in your laziness or low effort performance, you are flexing your power of defiance. But it would be better for everyone if you just quit. Get a different job.
If you are a manager who makes employees hate their jobs, then you are the problem. Most companies have a combination of both, exacerbating each other in a vicious cycle.
Too many times I have been a student, wife, employee, neighbor, or classroom assistant pointing out system flaws only to be mocked, put down, punished, or ignored.
What do you do in those circumstances?
I walk away. I don't want to be part of that crap.
Yeah, no one ever listens to me either. In fact, I've actually made that comment to a few of my favorite coworkers. I talk, I give ideas. I am a ghost that no one hears. So, Rachel, how do you power trip?
I actually power trip quite often.
I believe that.
But not in the way you would think, Kayla. My persona here on the podcast is forward, to the point, blunt, and aggressive. But in real life, I'm not really like this. I play dumb. I lack technology. I maneuver my life so others cannot hold power over me. That is my power trip. You have zero power over me. I don't seek power over others, and I actively avoid others having power over me. College has been the first situation I put myself in that I cannot avoid others holding power over me. It has been a test of my will to not quit every class course run by some power-tripping asshole instructor. Being 50 gives me too much leverage to navigate interactions with these assholes. I'm a student, yet I'm the same age as them or older, so I also get to approach them at eye level as a peer. And I do this dance of trying not to get kicked out of class, yet passing the class while not letting them be an asshole to me, which is tricky because teachers like that tend to be an asshole to the entire class. And I sit there taking it personally, trying to figure out how to make it stop.
So you're saying submissive behavior can be a form of power tripping?
Yeah, pretending to be weak can be a form of power tripping. Pretending to be stupid or incompetent can be a form of power tripping.
What power do submissives have?
Let's role play. I'm the submissive in our relationship. Who has the power?
I do.
Correct. Who gets to make all of the decisions?
Me.
Having to make all of the decisions can be exhausting. You have to be in control of everything. I get to sit on a sweet ass and not think, not plan.
Hey, that's not fair. I don't want to be in control anymore. I want to be the submissive.
Too bad. I'm too weak, poor, and stupid to be in control. You have to be in control for me. I just can't do anything right.
I can't do it.
I can't do it. Well, you didn't tell me what to do.
I shouldn't have to. You're a grown-ass motherfucking man.
Like, are you not an adult? Are you not the parent of this child?
This may or may not be a recent argument. The mental load is a combination of short and long-term planning and emotional labor. An invisible mental load we carry with us to work, vacation, and it keeps us awake while our partner falls deep asleep next to us. The mental load can't be turned off because it's never complete. It's the care of our loved ones, which is ongoing.
How much laundry needs to be done, and when can it fit into the schedule? Who needs to see the dentist? Who's outgrowing their shoes and underwear? What day is the recital? The car needs an oil change soon, and Susie's friend has a birthday next week. The cat needs to go to the vet, and we forgot to take the trash to the curb.
Measuring a person's mental load should be standard in health and social surveys, as this varies from family to family. For instance, my high needs family is a greater mental load for me than your family was for you.
I agree. I have an internal mental load affecting me from my childhood abuses, but that's a long time past. It affected my relationships, but you are under a lifelong pressure I could never comprehend.
If I had a power tripping or lazy husband or any other stressor in my life that was dragging me down, I could not handle what I need to do on a weekly basis. My mental load on a weekly basis is filled with making sure all the medications are filled, being invited to a cousin's birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. Is that much sensory stimulation going to cause a massive meltdown? I find myself considering the likelihood of safety issues that he could come in contact with, such as open doors to high traffic areas. Is there a place I can change a diaper on a child that's close to the size of a 7-year-old? How do I plan a play date where he will be able to play or where his brother can join in, making sure any upcoming school closures are considered and planned for? Employers should adopt better policies that allow for greater work-life reconciliation to lessen the mental load. I'm so lucky to have a family business I can work for. My dad is my boss. He lets me adjust my hours for my son's therapy needs. In most jobs, I would be let go for having to change my schedule at the drop of a hat for the parent meetings that I have to go to with his therapists. I'd never get hired at a new job if they knew half of the accommodations I need for a kid who legitimately can't be brought to most daycare providers because even though he's physically 5, he has no real communication skills. He has a diet more limited than most 6-month-olds due to selective eating, and he requires incredibly specific reactions to behaviors in order to help him understand social cues. Caregiving should be a vital infrastructure developed and invested in by governments to reduce competing work and care demands.
Men and women that avoid the mental load will conveniently forget a partner's birthday, or don't know how to celebrate it in a way that feels good. They don't know the last time the sheets have been changed or the towels were washed. They don't help plan meals. They don't pay attention to the growth of their own children to know if winter boots still fit. They don't know their own kids' schedules or routines. They avoid learning their partners' or kids' friends' names or contact info. They don't plan ahead for holidays, days off, or vacations. They have no idea what appointments are coming up or what appointments need to be made. They sit on their phone or play video games while you struggle to get everything done on time for bedtime, Christmas, back to school in the fall, or hell, as you struggle to get everything done on time for Monday.
And when you finally blow up, raging at them, they get all weepy and hurt, whining,
"Well, you didn't tell me what to do."
"Let me know if I can help. What do you want done? I'll do it." If you say those things, you are a power-tripping genius.
Weaponizing incompetence. I see this every day in the Reddit subthread called Relationship Advice. Women are in there every day complaining about partners who weaponize their own incompetence or ignorance about what it takes to run a household or be in a healthy, successful relationship. Hundreds of men will come in and comment on these women's posts, continually saying, "Did you ask him? Did you tell him what you need?" Putting the work on her. It is not our job to teach a full-grown man how to relationship.
Men will pretend to not know a child's snotty face needs to be wiped down, yet they manage entire sports teams, are CEOs of corporations, own Fortune 500 companies managing businesses, which would be fine if women were not as well. But we are. Across the Big Four, 9 of the 133 teams have female leaders at the helm. 6 of the NFL teams are owned by women, and women own Fortune 500 companies.
So a dual income home is a 50-50 split down the middle relationship. If someone in a 50-50 relationship acts like they deserve an award for helping you out, remember, they're not helping. It's a relationship. They're doing their share. It does not deserve an award or gold star. Rewarding someone takes extra time and effort, and that should only be done when extra time and effort was given above and beyond their 50-50.
Rachel, the thing is, marriage or any healthy relationship shouldn't be 50-50. You should both be giving 100%. 50-50 is divorce because you split the sheets and you go. You had 4 husbands. Did any of them give 100% effort?
Yeah, my second husband was the only 100%er. He had a job, I had a home business. He had his child, I had my child. We split chores for the household equally. I did inside motherly things. He did all the manly tool-based yard, home, and car maintenance. There was no way I was ever going to mow the lawn or rake the leaves. He did all that. Here is the cherry on top. He was a Boy Scout leader. So was I. We both volunteered at church. He took the kids for activities without me so I could take a bath or a nap. He was the most fair partner I have ever had when it came to us each giving 100%. We enjoyed being parents together. If he hadn't gotten physically abusive, I would have had the perfect marriage with him.
Another form of power tripping is not noticing when someone is giving normal effort. If someone is going out of their way to think about you, picking up things you like, watching your shows with you, eating foods you like, and you are treating it like it's not enough, you are saying you deserve normal treatment and they don't. If you are bending over backwards to please a partner and they don't reciprocate, please stop. Stop wasting your time and effort on someone that isn't willing to lift a finger for you. And if you act like the normal attention you are giving is a gift from God, please step off your high horse and learn about 100% normal definitions of a healthy relationship. It is normal to go out of your way to think about someone you love, picking up things they like, watching their shows 50% of the time, and eating foods they like 50% of the time.
There are women who nitpick and micromanage a man raising his own kids in his own home. When a partner is pulling their weight and giving 100%, honor their effort, even if it's different than what you would do or how you would do it.
We all know about toxic work environments, friend groups, marriages, parenting, and financial loans. Creating a healthy environment takes time and effort. It also requires giving up power to allow others autonomy and power in the decision making.
Have you ever borrowed money from someone that proceeded to lord it over you while trying to dictate your actions or choices since you owe them money? Did you have a friend that micromanaged the friend group? Do your parents blindly trample through your life as if they are Neanderthals? How do you deal with partners that power trip on you? How do you regain your own sense of power? And is it worth it to stick around and play the game?
Do you feel entitled to punish people when they don't do what you want? If you know you can do a task faster, easier, and better than someone else. What harm is there in letting them do it wrong? How do you expect them to grow and learn if they are not allowed to make mistakes? Is there only one correct way of doing something? Is a lesson better learned if someone struggles through it or if they're dictated on how to execute it?
Write to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
Let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. And we're back. As a neuroscientist student, what is your favorite experiment on power tripping?
There is a pretty famous experiment called the Stanford Prison Experiment. 24 students were randomly assigned as prisoners or guards in 1971 and led to the basement of a Stanford University building. To study the effects of authority and power, the students were given free rein in their roles. The 2-week experiment was cut off on the 6th day because the guards were power tripping hard. Things got out of hand.
There are so many stories of authority figures power tripping the innocent. It would be pointless to spend any time talking about it here. We all hear stories about priests, politicians, pimps, bad parents, and bosses. Let's talk about things closer to home that affect you and me.
Okay, but first I'm going to do a brief bit on the Alpha Wolf data collection. On one hand, we have data about the sophisticated group hierarchy of wolf packs. That data talks about alpha, beta, and omega wolves. Guess what?
What?
That's not how wolf packs really work. In the wild, wolves are less structured than that. Most wolf packs are 2 parents and their pups. If the group is larger, it's because a few older offspring still live at home. The pack is just a family with the adults in charge because they're the parents.
Yeah, but there's actual data on wolfpack behavior. Rudolf Schinkel wrote about it in 1947 after studying wolves at the Basel Zoo in Switzerland.
And that is what happens when you put a bunch of wolves in prison. You get prison behavior, just like the Stanford prison experiment. The average human being doesn't walk around torturing people. The average wolf doesn't walk around being alpha.
So, what you're trying to say is if we put our spouse in a prison environment at home, they will act like they're in prison?
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
So for some people, when they have no control or power at work, they maybe have an overbearing boss or a leader in their church that doesn't let them have freedom of speech, it may turn into them coming home and feeling the need to be in control with their partners or their children, sometimes to an intense level of right down to if you don't dress a certain way, act a certain way, they're going to have an issue with it because they need their power somewhere and they're not getting that at work. And they're failing to separate their work-life balance. For me, I have no problem if certain people think I'm mean, if it allows me to have control of a situation that I need power in.
Life is what you make of it. When my son was 12, my husband and I wanted to purchase a new couch. We had a difficult time agreeing on what kind of couch we were going to get. He wanted a nice couch. I had a 12-year-old son. I wanted a new couch, but certainly not a nice couch.
You wanted a couch he could spill cereal on, jump on, get it dirty.
We had the power to make sitting on the couch for the next 6 years stressful or comfortable. We ended up with a couch that did not match our other furniture or even the room it was in. We both looked forward to getting rid of it, and every time there was a spill, whether it was my husband, me, my son, we were just like, oh, okay, clean it up. There was no freaking out. There was no stress. There was no punishment.
I've been in someone's apartment that was disgustingly filthy, and that in and of itself is a power trip. You can't make me clean my place for you. This is my house. Meanwhile, there is nowhere to sit down without getting food or gum on your pants. You would rather pee in the yard than sit on their toilet. If you are so self-absorbed, you refuse to acknowledge other people's comfort, then you are on a trip.
And the opposite is true. If you insist on levels of luxury that make living there walking on eggshells, then you are tripping.
There is plenty of research data on age, sex, socioeconomic, ethnicity, development delays, childhood abuse, peer power structures, alcohol and drug use, and marital status contributing to power inequality in relationships. Give me an example of relinquishing power.
When I was traveling on the Renaissance circuit, I spent a few of those years as a babysitter. Some of the other babysitters were 13, 14 years old. Others were like me, adults, chilling with all the neighborhood kids in a relaxing environment. During a particular festival, I was hanging out with some of these teens, sitters, and we were all babysitting in the same park. There was one girl who had never fastened a cloth diaper. I could have done it for her, but I refused. I kept telling her, "Oh, I'm not the sitter. I'm afraid you're going to have to do it yourself for safety reasons. They hired you. They want you to be the one changing the diaper." I talked her through it. She did it so wrong. The diaper was hanging off to one side, but I praised her. I was like, "Good job." She's like, "Yeah, I did it. It's awesome." And she's like, "It's not on right." Like, it's definitely not on right. She asked me to do it again. I refused. We were outside. Zero bad was going to happen if this toddler peed or pooped on the side of its leg in the grass or the sand. So an hour later, she tried to fix it again. It got a little better. Another hour after that, she did it again. It got even better. She kept getting this feeling of empowerment every time she did it better. She also felt empowered by the fact that I, as an adult, didn't give a shit that that diaper was half off this baby. I didn't care that she was doing it wrong. Poop and pee are not usually dangerous. We had wipies, we had water. Any accidents that happened, we were going to clean it up. Like, it's not even a big deal. So even though the diaper was still a little saggy, she was getting better at it every time she practiced. By the time the mother picked her baby up in the evening, this teenager was an expert at pinning cloth diapers. It was tight, it was snug, and she felt really good about herself. That was never going to happen if I pinned that baby's diaper for her. I could have spent the day chastising, berating her, telling her how she was doing it wrong. I could have lorded it over her that the poor baby was going to poop out the saggy leg. I could have power tripped the fuck out of her that day. But why? I got more joy watching her get empowered as she figured it out. Kayla, give me an example of relinquishing power.
I'll be honest, it's something I struggle with. I'm very much I'll just do it. I'm learning though, because it's exactly what my kids need me to do. So I've learned to let my 3-year-old put his clothes on inside out and backwards to dress himself for the day, even if it means half of his outfit is pajamas. And it's a daily struggle. I don't think it's because I want power though. I think that comes from me not wanting him to look silly as hell.
So I have a favorite video. I don't use media a lot. I don't watch TV. I don't do the whole TikTok thing. But when I have to, I have stumbled across a video. I fell in love with this video. I don't know if anybody out there has seen it. If you haven't, I hope you look for it. So to me, this is the perfect example of a lack of power in a dynamic setting with a child. It's an uncle and a toddler niece pouring drinks and yelling, "Yeet." Y-E-E-T. So this man allows the child to learn, grow, make mistakes, and he gives her the power of autonomy. These videos fill my heart with joy every time I watch them.
Yes, I love Yeet Baby. She's so cute. She has a little brother now who is also learning the Yeets, just so you know. Who has that kind of patience? Who has that kind of time? Who is willing to clean up that kind of mess over and over again? Only very special people with a special bond. Do you have that bond with your spouse, your kids, your employees, your lover? If your lover made an embarrassing mistake, are you one to roll your eyes or make it fun?
Every relationship has needs. Each individual has needs.
Can you list your own needs?
Can you list their needs?
How many of those are you fulfilling correctly? Do you need to be reminded? Do you need to be asked?
Is there an imbalance in how many needs you have versus how many needs they have?
Tell us your stories. We have TikTok and YouTube.
We are going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. And we're back.
I need to know some details about men power tripping on you. The sheer volume of men you interact with has to come with some shit.
Okay, so help me read some of these DMs that I get on Reddit from men that I have zero idea who they are.
I'm just bored and randomly message women in hopes of potentially having the opportunity to bed them.
I would fuck the living daylights out of you. Sexy as fuck.
I'm trying to get to know you. If you don't mind, I want you to be my sugar baby.
See, it's interesting, that particular comment, when I read that, it read it differently in my head. I thought that he was annoyed because I hadn't answered him in like 6 hours.
What do you mean?
I read it like, I'm trying to get to know you. If you don't mind, I want you to be my sugar baby.
That is the calamity of written word. It is easy to assign power tripping where it doesn't exist. Some of these are just gross.
I know what your problem is. You've never gotten fucked good. You're uptight. I feel bad. You deserve a fat nut in your face.
Oh my God, Rachel. So these people just come out of the blue and message you this stuff. Like, what the fuck? How do you answer them?
Okay, it depends on what they're saying. Like, this one guy said, I thought you looked sexy. ICL. Like, literally the 3 letters ICL. And I'm like, I don't know what this means. I'm like Googling ICL and he's like typing me back.
It's I can't lie.
Okay, so then he's like, I want you, LOL. I figure out what ICL means. I can't lie. And then he won't stop messaging. He's totally being a pervert. So I type him back. I'm like, you want me to drive to your house right now? And he's like, yeah, come pick me up. Like, literally, he's typing P. Come on, darling. Hey, baby. We can have great sex. I'm the best shag your single ass will ever get.
So you chat with them?
Not all of them. A fair amount I ignore. The really bad ones like these, though, I'm gonna answer. It's like a personal contest to see who can be the most disgusting. I say things like, pony up, stud muffin, and show me some anal sex with a banana. I would be honored to see you give yourself anal with a cucumber for me.
You say this to them?
Hey, they started it.
So this just escalates back and forth until what?
Until I piss them off so much, they stop messaging. There was one guy, I kept sending him these links to like the foulest, barfiest porn I could find online. It took 2 days for him to give up.
But what does this accomplish? Normal, healthy people just ignore, delete, or block messages like this.
I guess that's why I engage. These predators crawl through the internet sending unsolicited dick pics and offensive messages to young teenagers, random people. I can't let it go. I have to sling it back in their face until they get creeped out by me. I have 46 people in my DMs sending me messages like this right now. I have no idea who these people are.
So every private message you get is a disgusting creeper?
No, some of them are timid and shy creepers. I have 10 people in my DMs sending me normal, boring, probing conversations to see if they can steer me into sexting with them. Those I don't mind as much. It's not as degrading. And then I get like 20 messages a day just from the conversations that I post and comment on that are non-sexual, that's why I'm on there. I'm on there for non-sexual conversations. So it's weird to me that people will just randomly DM me with the most perverted sicko stuff. But Tinder's just as bad. It's the same ratio of disgusting messages versus normal conversation stuff. The way if you're going to introduce yourself to a person, you might want to lead in with the normal. All right, Kayla, what kind of power imbalances do you have with your husband?
When he and I worked together, our relationship was against company policy because he was a manager and there was a concern of abuse of power. Some people like being powerless in sex, even to the point of rape fantasies, and vice versa. Some women use sex as a source of power, teasing only to take it away, denying it when they feel a partner has not earned it.
So is there a sex imbalance in your guys' life?
Other than the fact that my drive's about 10 times higher than his? No.
You know I have a favorite ex-boyfriend, right?
Yeah, you talked about him once.
We took a trip to Death Valley when we were dating and parked on top of this hill with a fantastic view. We hiked around, and when we were ready to head to the hotel, he could not find his keys to the truck to save his life. We searched everywhere, got down on our knees, dug in the sand underneath near the driver's door. We rewalked our hike. We finally had to call a tow truck. This entire time we were looking for these keys, I was cracking jokes, being genuinely funny with him because it was funny. It was the funniest shit I'd ever see. We were stuck in Death Valley on the top of a mountain and we couldn't find the fucking keys. It was like this epic hilarity.
So where were the keys?
In the sand, under the driver's door.
No way.
We looked so many times. We were down there like digging through the sand. The tow truck driver pulls up and he's like, well, the most obvious place it would be is you probably dropped it when you're getting out of the sand. So he bends down in the same spot we had just spent 2 hours digging around in, and he lifted up the keys. I'm not even kidding. So later that night, when we were in the hotel and being all snuggly, he was so emotional. He was like holding me and he was being so sincere. And he said that most women being put in a situation like that would have been rude, snide, made jokes, blaming him for doing something wrong while punishing him. And I was like, who would do that? And he's like, every girl I've ever been with doesn't the stupidest little things and they just get all, snippy and snidey. And I'm like, well, that sounds miserable. And he's like, yeah, my relationships have been miserable. He's like, I had the most fun today with you making a mistake. I lost my keys and we had so much fun around that. And I just think that's how life should be.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible that anybody would treat him in such a negative way for something so simple as losing your keys. Pretty sure we've all done it at one point or another, right?
So many people are willing to power trip over something that's not important. It's like, is this a danger? Are we about to die? It's like, no, they just enjoy power tripping you.
There is nothing wrong with fighting. It's normal. It happens in almost every relationship. It's how and when you fight that matters. There's a big difference between fighting for your relationship and fighting simply to be a dick. You can email us or join our Patreon. We want to hear from you. And if you got anything out of today's episode, give us some love, subscribe, and rate us.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We love you! See you next week on Dating Hypothesis.